That is it. Good morning. This is Real Talk La Mesa, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Claire McKee, and as always, we're here to bring you the business of life in America's finest city. The show is presented by our loyal partners at 5 Star Escrow and First American Title. And I've got Mr. La Mesa with me, a.k.a. John Lever with New Leaf Realty. How's it going?
Good. Glad to be here.
Good to see
you. As usual.
It's a little chilly in here today, so if you see us swapping jackets, John might need to borrow mine later, so just setting the tone right from the beginning. But as always, we have a great show planned today. We're talking music, creativity, mind, body, and soul empowerment, and y'all are going to want to stick with us for this one. Joining me today is Megan Fenyo. She's a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Mission Strength. Hi, Megan.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being here. And we are also joined by Larry Wagner, and he is the founder of Wagner School of Music. Hey, Larry.
Thank you. Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you for
having us. Glad to have you as well. So, I don't know if you watched any of the shows previously, but we can't just start talking business right away.
Right.
I want to get to know you a little bit better and let our audience get to know you as well. So, Megan, if you could share any fun fact about yourself, what's something people may not know?
There's so many, to be honest, because I'm blonde, so that makes it really fun too. But I think the funniest fact is that I'm only 4'11".
Really?
And I'm 39 years old.
What heels do you have on?
I have big heels on.
I did not even notice, actually.
I have very big heels on, but I'm only 4'11".
Wow.
Yes.
Well, you're sitting tall in that chair.
I am. I was like earlier, I was like, I need to sit tall, but if I sit all the way up, my feet don't touch the ground. So, good thing I've got these.
She didn't even ask for a booster seat, you guys. Like, low maintenance. I
I
love it. So you're 4'11". Wow. I am almost a foot taller than you. So cool. Larry, what's a fun fact about you? You're not 4'11", are you?
No, I'm 6 foot, but that's here neither here nor there. My wife and I gave birth to quadruplets in 1981, so we have 4 boys, full grown, 38 years old, and doing very well. That's a fun fact.
That is a fun fact, and you survived. You're still breathing with like one on each arm. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to have 4 infants.
Well, the infants part was very fun, and that was kind of a whole different lifestyle for us. We really enjoyed it, and the kids were great kids. That was the blessing. They got along great with each other, and so we just had a good time.
That's amazing. What was the most difficult thing about having 4 children at one time, all the same age?
I think just being able to create a situation where they were each individuals, not the boys, but that they were, we found a location where we could get 4 second grades. So they each had their own grade they were in, their own classroom, and just keeping it individual. We didn't want them to be a mob.
Like a package deal, right?
But they are very close, and so there's no getting around that. So.
That is really cool. That is an awesome fun fact.
Do you have other kids as well?
No, those are...
Just the 4.
Yeah.
That was enough.
I can't imagine you'd go back out like, whew, let's try that again. What if you had 4 more?
Well, I retired
Panic
early.
Attack. Yeah, you retired early. John, you have...
I've got twins.
I was going to say, you have twins, right?
But that doesn't even compare. It's not even a fun fact.
That's a walk in the park.
It is. No, I mean, no matter how many you have, every child is a handful.
No kidding.
No, we've got twins, and then everyone was like, why are you guys having, because we've got a 3-year-old now as well, and our twins are 6, but
were they calling you crazy?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You already had a boy-girl twin, like, that's perfect, but then,
Couldn't be happy with what you had, John.
Yeah.
I love it. Now you have 3. That's amazing. Children are such a blessing. This is a little deeper of a question, but I think it's important to talk about this stuff. And I'm just curious, Megan, what's been the best lesson that you've learned in life or business thus far?
There's so many, to be honest. But I think, which I'll talk more about today, is kind of the journey that I've been on the last 6 years, more importantly, the last year. And that's basically... building the confidence to really believe that you are enough. And I'll go more into that. That's kind of been my mantra and my motto for so many years. And I really learned to believe that within the last 2 years. That is probably my biggest lesson so far in life. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more.
Absolutely amazing. You are enough. That's a great lesson. Larry, what about you?
Well, as I think about that, I realize that the greatest lesson I think I've learned is that gratitude will solve so many of the problems that, as individuals we have. And we can be grateful for the breath in our lungs, the fact that we can see, the fact that we can move around and interact with other people, and the fact that we can seek God in our own way. And and come to some kind of appreciation for just every little thing in our life, and that will overcome the depressions that come. I'm not talking about clinical depression, but
Yeah.
but even that, I mean, it really is a lifesaver to be grateful
Yeah.
and to really put your mind to that.
Focus on the good. It's
Yeah.
abundant, right? And more will come. I love that. John, same question for you. You're a business owner. In life or business, what has been a really valuable lesson that you've learned?
You know, as these guys were answering, I was thinking about a situation I had with a client early on where we were almost at odds over a situation, and I had the choice to either try to smooth it out, which was going to cost me some money, or to butt heads, and I know I could have won that small battle,
Right.
and I chose to work it out, and it wasn't, I didn't really want to at the time, and that person turned into my best client by far, who I've
Really?
done more than 30 sales with over the years.
That's really interesting.
And so fortunately it was early on, and it really stuck with me that, you know, whatever I can do to keep the relationship strong between my clients, really whatever I'm doing, it's so worthwhile, because you just, not even from a business sense, but in a business sense, you never know when that's going to come back around, but you also never know when, you know, you might be able to help that person in another capacity where if you would have, you know, gone
Burned
the
the
other way
bridge.
and followed, you know, what your ego wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, so I always look back at that, and I'm so glad it happened early in my career.
Absolutely. That's such an amazing point. Like, it's not worth the tally next to your name, the point that I was right, I won the battle,
Yeah.
right? It wouldn't have been worth it for the relationship and all the benefits and abundance that have come from just smoothing it over. And
He's a great
taking the
friend
high
now
road.
too, you know, it's,
I love that. Really cool. That's an amazing lesson. So we're going to switch gears because we're talking about music today. We've got Wagner School of Music in the house. Larry is here. And I just want to know if any of you played an instrument when you were growing up or still do play an instrument today. John, I'll come back to you.
I took about 2 weeks of the piano when I
Yeah.
was a kid, and I was telling Larry before we got started that, you know, the setting just wasn't right, and I wish I would have learned how to play the piano, but I was a sports guy, as you know.
It's never too late.
Yep.
Yep.
There you go. Megan, what about you?
I was actually a drummer. So because I couldn't read music, and so I played like the bass drum and the quads and the marching band.
Cool.
And I used to play in my church band growing up.
Yes.
And now I bought a ukulele when I was in Hawaii, and so it's on my bucket list. I might have to ask you for some help because it's on my bucket list to learn to play it. It's been sitting in my room for like 2 years.
Staring at you.
And I've tried to do YouTube and things like that, but
Yeah.
again, it's so hard. I just can't read the music, and I know there's only 4 chords, but still, so I might need some music help.
Well, it's kind of like a different language, right? Like at first you're looking at it and you're like, I have no idea. But if
Yeah.
you can break it down and understand it, like for Larry, he's like, oh yeah, that's a language I understand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure, Larry, you still play music. What instruments do you play?
Well, my main instrument is piano.
Okay.
It always has been. But I've, of course, going to San Diego State and graduating from there, we were asked to learn all the band instruments.
Oh,
so we
wow.
had to learn the scales on every instrument. So that
Amazing.
was the minimum. And but I think my favorite instruments are the piano and guitar
Okay.
because I can sing along with those, and I can, you know, pretty much explore and find, you know, my voice through that.
I love that.
And I do love to sing too. So.
Cool. Okay, so guitar and piano are the number ones. On the flip side, did you play any sports growing up?
I sure did. I went to Army and Navy Academy in Carlsbad, California,
Okay.
and military school, and
As you smile when you say that, how was that?
that was something. Probably another fun fact. We'll
Yeah.
do that another day. But yeah, I did football. I did track. I did swimming. I did diving,
Amazing.
gymnastics, basketball, and it was a big deal. You know, sports in my life was a huge deal, but there was always time for music. You know, as much as it takes.
So you did both. A lot of people choose whether they're going to do sports
Exactly.
or music,
They
and you
do,
maintain
yeah.
both, as well as every sport under the sun.
And part of that, I think, is I think part of that is that we require too much practice of the kids, and so it becomes a separate aspect of their life. It's not something that's integrated in their life. It's something that they do,
It's like a chore.
and it's getting in the way of this, and the other thing, and it can become a real sentence in hard labor if you let it.
Yeah.
But if you just give a
Good point.
reasonable amount, just kind of a little bit each day, it's like the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise finishes, and the hair kind of gets sidelined,
Yeah,
you know, because he was burned out or whatever.
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Megan, did you play sports growing up?
I did. So again, funny story. I'm only 4'11", but for some reason I did sports. I tried cheerleading.
Can you dunk a basketball?
No, I
Okay.
cannot. I cannot play basketball. But I was in cheerleading for 1 year, and you would think I'd be the one that they would basket toss.
Yeah.
No, I was the base. So
Really?
yeah, so people would climb on me. And then I quit after a year, and then I did swimming.
Okay.
So I was a swimmer, and then I ran track, middle school, high school. But the funniest thing, I was a hurdler. So I ran hurdles.
Wow.
Which is
Wow.
just
That's incredible.
Yeah.
so. I know, isn't
Must
that
have a
weird?
Maybe
Spring.
because you're just so light, you just like fly.
I
through
wish
the
I
air,
was like, maybe
right?
back then I was, but now, as I'm getting older, but
Just
maybe.
sailing over those
Yeah.
hurdles. That is so cool. John, you played sports growing up. Share with us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I grew up playing a number of sports, but then I stopped playing everything else except for golf when I was about 12 years old, and played professionally for about 6 years and toured. So.
And it's interesting, you kind of went with, okay, I'm going to focus on this one thing, right? Not do the others. I want to be really good at this.
Well, it was a lot of it was because of my family situation. My parents split up, and so I needed something to do, and I
your
loved
outlet.
golf because I could play it on my own. So even if my buddies that I normally played with weren't out there, I could just go by myself and practice
So true.
all day. And so I just got good at it at a young age and
I
never
love
looked
it.
back.
So we're going to get rocking and rolling, but before we do, anyone you want to give a shout out to, John?
Always my wife and kids.
Always.
Yeah.
Hey, fam. Megan, how about you?
Well, I can see right now that Natera Osborne is watching. She is my amazing editor on my book.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm going to give her a shout out. And also all of the members of my You Are Enough community on Facebook. And again, my family and my friends and just all my supporters of my journey the last, year and a half. So
It's amazing. Thanks, Megan. Larry, anyone you want to say hello to?
Naturally, I want to say hi to my wife, Jana, and our kids, Chad, Ben, Kyle, and Brett. And I also want to say hi to all the parents and students at the music school, Wagner School of Music. We have almost 400 kids there, so hi, everybody.
Awesome.
And all my friends throughout everywhere.
Yeah,
You know.
all of them that are on Facebook land that are going to see this amazing interview. So we are just getting started, but if you like what you see, be sure to click follow on our live feed so you can be notified every time we go live on Real Talk La Mesa. And that's the best thing about being with you on Facebook Live is that we get to interact with you, our live audience. So please drop us a comment. If you have questions for any of us, we'd love to hear from you. And if you just want to tell us we're doing an amazing job, we would be honored to hear from you as well. So we're going to dive in with Megan Fenyo. Again, she's a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Mission Strength. Let's just dive right in, Megan. Share with us some of the struggles that you have faced in your life and how that ultimately led you to the decision to start this business, Mission Strength.
So, multiple struggles as we've all have had, just somewhat of a difficult childhood, a learning disability where I was told never to go to college because I was never going to graduate.
Wow.
I ended up having a very positive and amazing professional career, but personally, I had a lot of struggles and really dealt with some self-esteem issues. And, I became a mental health therapist about 15 years ago and really kind of started my own work in that process. And throughout the years, I, really built upon what I wanted to do in my business. So I actually, in 2012, commissioned as an officer when I was 33 years old into the Air Force.
Wow.
Crazy decision.
Wow.
Yeah, so I moved, I was 33, I just picked up my life in Michigan and was stationed at Travis Air Force Base in Northern California and provided mental health and substance abuse treatment to active duty members.
Amazing.
So in the midst of that, I got married, and this has been my story for the last 6 years. And short of it is that I got out of the military and got a job at a hospital and was really dealing with some issues in my marriage, an affair that my ex-husband had, and most recently realizing that I was in a very narcissistic, abusive marriage. And even as a mental health therapist, I didn't realize it at the time.
Interesting.
So we divorced in 2016, I actually moved to San Diego. It was always on my bucket list to live in San Diego. So I moved here 2 years ago, but the abuse and just my being wrapped up in that relationship continued even after our divorce.
Wow.
And last September, I had this kind of nudging feeling that I wanted to do something more in my life. Like I loved my job as a therapist, but I was sick of kind of being in corporate world and four walls of a hospital. And so I left my very high paying, very secure job to jump into entrepreneurship. Absolutely clueless, no idea what I'm doing, no business sense, not good at social media, but I felt like I had a story to share. And so last year I developed my coaching business. I also have a private mental health practice. And again, my bucket list is huge. One of my things that I wanted to do was write a book by the time I was 40. Well, there was other plans for me. And in February, I ended up finally walking away from my ex-husband. It was very traumatic, very, very difficult, but I started writing my book. And what I love about my book is that I was in the midst of complete heartbreak and struggle and trauma, basically, while I was writing this book. And so I started it in February and finished writing it in May and launched it in August.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a quick turnover.
Yes.
You were writing.
Yes, I was writing.
Oh my gosh. So I can only imagine the raw emotion that is in this book. Give us like an overview, like who is this book for and what can people take away from it?
The book is for, honestly, anyone that's struggling with either health, career, relationships, dealing with self-limiting beliefs, feeling stuck, anyone that, wants to start visualizing and manifesting a life that they've always dreamed of. A year ago, if you would have asked me, I never would imagine that I would be a best-selling author, that I would not have contact with my ex-husband, that I would be speaking around the country, being on a talk show in San Diego. Like, I never imagined that.
Telling your story.
Yeah, and the process of the book, a lot of people ask me how the process was, and I say I don't even remember it, because when you're doing something that your heart knows is right and that you've been led on this path, I never had to sit down and say, I need to write my book, or I need, and that's why I'm proud of it, is because it is raw. I've actually never read the book cover to cover.
Really?
Never once.
Are you a little apprehensive of that?
Not that yes, because I'm kind of a perfectionist, but because I was in the midst of heartbreak, I wanted it to be raw and authentic. That's one of my main values, is being authentic. And so my editor, Natara Osborne, had a handful of stuff to do, because I didn't even read through it. I didn't check for spelling or grammar. When it was done, it was done, and I sent it to her, because I didn't want to go through and say, oh, I need to add this, or is this okay to say?
Or censor your thoughts as you're putting it on paper.
Yep. So she had her hands full with editing that book, but she did an amazing job.
I can only imagine the emotion it would bring up to read that again and put yourself back in that place.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about your coaching business and what it's like for people who work with you. What are some of the services you provide?
So I provide individual coaching it's called the You Are Enough program. Again, it's just focused on people that are wanting to learn coping skills on how to deal with limiting self-beliefs, self-doubt, how to discover themselves and visualize, their passion and their purpose, and develop coping skills. We also develop, a strength plan, which includes, self-help skills and coping skills and self-care and all of that. I also just started an individual coaching program for people that want to become a best-selling author, because I never expected that for anyone that wants to self-publish. And there's so many tricks and tips and hidden secrets that I learned, and I'm really excited about offering this to people who want to become a best-selling author, because it is possible, and it's amazing when you make that.
Well, you are enough, and really anything is possible if we put our mind to it. And I think it's interesting, you said, I kept getting this nudge to leave corporate. I got this nudge that I needed to do something different. I had this nudge. We all have this incredible intuition that we often just don't listen to, but it's amazing what happens when you let go and you're like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and you just jump in.
Yes.
Look at where you are now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I ignored my intuition for 6 years.
Wow.
And I was living a mediocre life.
Yeah.
I thought I was happy, and professionally I was. Work was going good, but I was broken inside. And it wasn't until I said, no, I'm going to stop letting my ex-husband write the story of my life. I'm going to say no, I'm going to walk away. And as soon as I did, it was in February, and all of this stuff has just happened. And so I'm just truly blessed and just super excited for what the future
That's
holds.
so exciting. Well, Natara's giving you some love. She said, thank you, Megan. You're awesome. And Elizabeth said, way to go. You're amazing. So hello to our live viewers. Thank you so much for watching. You touched on this a little bit, Megan, but what are your top 3 values, and why is that really important?
So my top 3 values, authenticity, honesty, and integrity. And I talk about that in my book as a way of coping. So my values went out the door when I was in my marriage. And now rediscovering my values was part of discovering who I was. And so there's times where if I'm making a decision or a certain behavior, I'll stop and think, is this honoring my value of authenticity, integrity, and honesty? And sometimes it works because I'm human, right? So, and you know, sometimes it doesn't. And so I talk about the importance of values in my book and how to use that as a way to build that self-confidence and self-esteem, and to be able to use that as a way to make decisions that is going to help create the life you've dreamed of.
Yeah, so I want to grab the book. We've got it here. If you can, oh, there we go. Hit us with the shot. Where can we find this book? Where can we purchase it?
You can get it on Amazon. It's available as paperback as well as an ebook. I eventually want to do an audiobook, but the one thing I love about the book is that after every chapter I pose a question, and there's journal pages. So it's a self-help book where it's not something you just read and put down, but that you can really start working these steps and journal about it. And so I do like to put a plug for that because of the paperback. You can still do it on ebook, but paperback is good.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody wants to work with you in a coaching capacity or maybe for private therapy, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Megan?
Definitely going to my website. It's going to be changing soon, but right now, and it's kind of long, but it's Megan or Mission Strength SD, like San Diego.com. Or you can find me on Facebook just under Megan Fenyo. And I would love for people to join my community and just reach out to me and, you know, let's connect and collaborate and see how we can work together.
I love it. So that's Megan Fenyo. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She's the founder of Mission Strength, and she's also a published best-selling author, and you can find out more at missionstrengthsd.com. So we're going to turn it over to Larry Wagner. He is the founder of Wagner School of Music. And you started Wagner School of Music, what did you say, over 40 years ago?
Yes, 1976.
Like, how are you even that old? It doesn't make sense to me. But before we get into that, I want to know a little bit about what your life looked like before you started music school. How did that come to be?
Well, I was in college, San Diego State, and met my wife. She and I had a kind of a chance meeting, and she was looking on the job board at San Diego State, and there was a job offer for a teacher teaching music. And so she wasn't able to do it because it was piano, and she's a flute major. So she says, hey, this might be good for you. And at that point, I started teaching, and I really loved it. You know, I thought, wow, the kids were like 4 or 5 years old. And I love playing with kids. I love getting down to their level. I love the fact that they're fully human beings. They're fully, you know, equal to us in their own way. They're not these, you know, they're just a lot of fun. And I had so much fun with them, teaching them rhythm, playing with the rhythm instruments and doing all the things. And I had no idea that was going to be anything I would continue to do, because my goal was to get into Hollywood and to become a rock star. I was in a rock and roll band, Top 40, and we were trying to break in, and that was what I thought we were going to do. And there actually came a very deciding point in my career where I did have an opportunity to go to Las Vegas and open a show there. And the choice was move to Las Vegas and do that, or stay here and have no money and do nothing, you know. And but you know, I just gotten married with my wife, person I met in the music school there at San Diego State. We ended up getting married. So it was like the marriage was not going to work, and this lifestyle was not going to work if I was going to go take off and just be on the road and start doing this whole music trip. So I had to make a decision, and it just so happened that the lady that owned the music school said, you know, I need somebody to take this music school. I'm retiring, and I want it to be you and your wife.
Really?
So for $10,000, we bought the music school.
Oh.
We didn't have $10,000, but she let us pay it off, and it took about 10 years to pay it off at $150 a month. But she really wanted us to have it.
Hey, you
And,
did it though.
Yeah. So we didn't know anything about business, and had we known about business, we probably would have thought, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, starting a music school. I mean, we don't have any products. We don't have any, it's just lessons. But we had a unique idea, and that is to do group piano lessons. And the parents would attend. And we would educate the parents as to how to work with their kids at home, even if they're not musicians, so that they would have a parent page for every song in the book. And if their kid asked them a question at home, you see, they're only with us 45 minutes once a week, but they're with their parents all week. So something comes up, and they're having a problem, they're getting frustrated, and there's a parent page for every song, and the parent can go through and go, well, let's just look at this and be a part of that process.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of a niche. We have between 4 and 8 kids in each class, and that was the way we fashioned it, designed it to be.
Tell me about that philosophy. What made you want to take the group approach versus private lessons, which is more traditional, right? That's kind of the standard.
Most kids, I think, and most people are used to the idea of private, and they can't imagine what it would be like in group. Because what is this? It's going to be chaos, you know,
Right.
everybody just
Banging on the piano.
yeah, banging on the piano and
What
running
is
around.
the age range of the kids?
Yeah, and the age range?
Yeah, you said 6 is when they start.
Yeah, they start between, actually we start at infancy. We are partnering with Nightingale Music over in La Jolla, and that is 0 to 5. And they do all kinds of activities, mommy and me type activities. And she's got quite a few of those students, hundreds. And but for us, in piano, it's between the ages of 6 and 18. And so that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, because we're trying to explain this to people when they call on the phone, why group would be as good or even in some cases better than privates. And it was difficult to explain. So we put together, and my son Brett put together, he works at the school too, a video along with the guy that did the camera, Tom, and it was a 1-minute video that actually lays it out, and when you watch it you go, oh, I get it. But listen to me talk, it's going to be kind of hard to get. But I'll tell you, the basic idea is that the teacher's piano is louder than the student's piano.
Okay.
And it's playing correctly on the beat. And the kids are all playing with their keyboards, and they're playing on the beat and staying with the teacher. And so right from hot cross buns, they learn how to play in a group. And the social aspect of that, we didn't realize this at the time, but the retention rate for these students of continuing with their music lessons, having fun, is so wrapped up in the social environment where the parents are involved, the kids are involved. It's not something that you put on kids to do, separate from everything else they do, but here's a bunch of kids who are all together at the same level, and they're learning that way. So it just evolved, and all the teachers' ideas, parents' ideas evolved to a point where at this point we're very successful in keeping the kids for a long period of time, and they at least get their music and they can find their voice. I mean, that's the important thing.
Did you start out doing private lessons and then switch to group along the way?
I never taught privately myself, except for just friends and things like that. So, but I personally took private lessons my whole childhood, and I tell you, that was a sentence in hard labor.
Tell us about that. I want to hear your experience, because obviously that influenced your idea.
It totally influenced it, because I thought, I'm not having fun, I hate reading music, I don't like playing with the metronome. Mom, I want out of this, you know. And my mom was very stubborn. And I can remember one incident where she was hearing a wrong note, and I kept arguing with her that it was the right note. And she said, well, I'm going to march you right down to the piano. So we marched down the street to the piano teacher, and she was from Hungary, and she says, oh, laddie, your mother is correct, that was wrong. So I was so upset, you know. And I'd always get mad at my mom when I'd make a mistake. I'd go, So, I mean, I was not really, I mean, the teacher was wonderful. I was just this really hyperactive kid that really didn't want to focus. And so I think what I got from that, and as I became an adult, I realized, you know what? We need to make it fun for kids to read notes. We need to make it a challenge, but also fun. There's a difference between playing by ear and playing by the written note, and we need to balance that out. How can we do it? And so we came up with some proprietary techniques that really, I think, only we are teaching, and the kids do enjoy it. They have a fun time.
Is that the Wagner piano method?
Yes.
I saw that on your website, and I'm like, I want to ask him about that. So that's it. You can't tell us your secrets, obviously.
Well, I mean, there's not a big secret about the fact that you have to practice the piano,
Okay.
you know, at home. But the amount of time that you have to practice, that's kind of an important aspect, and we want to give them just enough time to practice that they can integrate it into their lives so that they don't, you know, just do that all the time. An hour, 2 hours a day. They've got homework, they've got sports, they've got different things. So let's just make it like 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. And then, but the proprietary stuff has to do with what we're doing in the class, how we're presenting the music, how we're fashioning the lesson plan. And those things are hard to explain unless you're a musician. It's hard to, into pedagogy and that kind of thing, it's hard to explain, but we have some very dedicated teachers at our school that are teaching this way, and we would like to spread it out to others as well. But it's very difficult for people to understand, what can I do in a group? It's crazy, you know. And this is the challenge that we have. But we're working on that right now, and we're getting it to a point where we'll be able to offer it to others as well.
How often are lessons? Like, how long are they? What does that look like?
They're 45 minutes once a week.
Once a week.
They come in with a group of between 4 and 8 kids and their parents. And
the parents stay throughout the whole thing.
And parents, doggone it, when they learn to play a song, they're just as excited to find their voice as well, you know. Maybe they had music lessons, maybe they didn't, but they really love it, and they can empathize with their kids, and they can appreciate what their kids are going through. They can see every step along the way, and when their kids get to a point where they're struggling and they say, like I did, I want to quit, you know, the parents knows that that's just a slump. That's just we'll get over this hump, you know. And they can be an encourager to help those kids find their voice. It's really up to the parents. Kids don't quit, parents do.
Really interesting.
After this many years, have you seen some of your students go on to careers in music? And
Yes, we have several kids that have reported back to me that are in the industry, recording industry, also in symphonies around the country. Some have majored in music, not all of them do, but recently we had Miss Washington, who is just tried out for Miss America, and she was in our class. She was one of my students, and she played the piano. That's what her talent thing, you know, that she did. And so yeah, there's many reports back, and I even got someone who just got a job for Google, and he wanted to hook up with. He wanted to tell me, look, I just wanted to say what I'm doing and kind of feel in my life, and I asked him about his piano. He still plays, and it's just a relief for him to go to the piano, you know, and for many of the kids.
I'm glad you brought that up. In your experience, both teaching and just being a musician yourself, what are the benefits of having a creative outlet and being musically inclined, especially for our youth?
Well, we believe all kids should do music, and they should all start on the piano. That's our commitment. And what are the benefits? Well, we've all known as teachers and some parents that music is important in a child's life. It's important that they have that to develop their brains, their part of their education. But it's been an intuitive thing. We've seen we didn't know how to put it together. Well, they've done scientific studies now, and USC just did a study in 2017, and it actually bears out the fact that it grows your brain, literally, in the areas of where the left and right meet. It grows the white matter where the brain communicates with other parts of the brain, and it grows the gray matter. It helps you to make decisions, to be calm, And I think the fruits of piano can apply to everything in your life. Let's talk about it. Patience, getting through a struggle and succeeding, working out the details.
Discipline.
You know, being mindful of where you're at right now. Yes, you want to learn to play that song, but you got to go through this process. I mean, all of these things are applicable to your regular life.
Absolutely.
So I think for a child, it's good to get them to focus, especially the little boys. You know, they're so wiry. and it's really good for them to just have an activity where they have to really just focus on it and concentrate. It really helps them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Wagner School of Music is located right in La Mesa.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to expand or share this method with the rest of the country?
We have a plan to, my son Brett and his wife Sarah are working on expanding it to an online program where we can have meetups throughout the nation and
Wow.
actually have group lessons with, you know, Skyping type things. So we're working on that now. And that probably will be our biggest step when it goes out that way. I think locally we want to have a main studio there where people can come and learn, and the teachers can come, and we can do research and we can do programs for them. So we're always going to have that, I think. As far as expanding locations, we're already in Nightingale Music in La Jolla. We're talking about doing something in South Bay, and so we're kind of looking at areas to where we can do this kind of activity. It requires a very special teacher to do it. A teacher that not only loves kids and loves music, but actually understands how to do step by step by step in a group environment. It's a special teacher that can do that.
That's incredible. Well, you obviously have a lot of amazing staff and teachers working behind you. And you also have a podcast called Larry Talks. I just want to really quickly, what is that about? And
yeah, Larry Talks can be found on our website at wagnersmusic.com. And I talk about several areas would be of interest to the parents. Why kids want to quit. There's a 15-minute segment on that. What do you do when your kid says they want to quit? You know, the difference between group and private that we talked about. The difference between by ear and reading. That's a whole segment, and we can't evaluate a person's musical ability simply by can they read or can they play by ear, but there's a balance there. And rewards, what's the appropriate reward? These are all podcasts on there that I do, and it's just me rambling on, but it's based on my experience.
I love that, and
Yeah.
it's authentic, right? Back to what you said, Megan.
And
So-
I do have to pull a plug too, because I'll subscribe to your podcast if you subscribe to mine. Because I just launched the Blonde Bombshell podcast.
Oh, okay.
With one of my friends who's a psychologist. So
Amazing.
yeah, we record in San Diego. So
Those are wonderful, yeah.
yeah.
Spread
I would
the
love to do that.
Yeah. So I put a plug in
John
there
and
for that.
I mean, the only song
We're
I
just
can play on
trading
the
jackets.
piano. Yeah, we're just trading jackets. That's all we've got here today for you. But the only song I know how to play on the piano is Ode to Joy. And my girlfriend used to like play piano. She took lessons when we were kids, and I can't read it. I just copied from sound
Sure.
and learned it that way. That's all I got though. So maybe you can help me with that.
But you found your voice in there.
I did.
Yeah, it's like
crazy.
a very magical, special time when you can find something you can do with music besides listen to it, actually participate. It's just such a wonderful thing. And when I learned to own my music, that this is my voice in music, it all of a sudden it wasn't about do I like or don't like lessons. Yes, I want to learn more now because I really feel like I can do this. I remember I played Light My Fire by the Doors, and I played that whole 5-minute solo.
Oh my gosh.
And I learned that, and I was like, this is, and my friends were like, oh.
Yeah.
So it was very encouraging, and I realized, yeah, I can do this, and I think every kid needs to realize they can do it, and you can do it.
Absolutely.
too.
What an amazing level of accomplishment to just be like, I just did that, right? All the work that you put
Yeah.
into that to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
produce that. That's amazing. So if you want to find more about Larry, if you want to enroll in Wagner School of Music, you can go to wagnersmusic.com. Thank you so much for that amazing information, Larry. And we're going to turn it over to my La Mesa man, John Lieber, realtor with New Leaf Realty. And as always, you've got the La Mesa update for us. So what's
Always,
going on in
yeah.
your world?
I wish we had a piano here right now.
I'll play Ode to Joy for you while you tell us the La Mesa update. That would be badass.
You know, I was I was looking at the stats in La Mesa and just thinking, well, what's going on? Because we've heard so much talk about how volatile the real estate market is. Inventory's way up and interest rates are up, and certain areas prices have started to come down, and homes are sitting a long time. I was looking at La Mesa, and I'm like, not a whole lot's changed. The prices have really stayed pretty steady. We don't see the drops like some of the areas we've seen.
Okay.
Inventory's crept up a little bit, but people are buying homes faster. So when you look, they call it the market absorption, how fast people buy homes compared to how many homes are on the market. It's remained very constant. And last time when I was here, we talked about some of the areas, some of the more expensive areas, where we're seeing 300 homes in the market and only 20 or 30 homes in escrow. And that's a big change from where things were 6 months ago countywide. So, I think the thing that really speaks to in La Mesa is that there's a lot of value there.
Yeah.
I think you can find, relative to the county, properties that are actually affordable for families. You can find a nice home for $500,000 to $600,000, which countywide in a lot of areas in California that are anywhere close to the coast, you just can't find that.
Right.
And then you also see homes for $2 million and everything in between. But we've got really good schools. We're both office-wise located around La Mesa Village, and there's so many good restaurants and places to go. There's just a really good community there, and so I think it's continuing to draw people in, even though there's some uncertainty in the rest of the market here. So, it's really great to see that. I live in La Mesa myself. My office has been there for 10 years now. And it's just cool to see the progression and to see how stable it's been over the last few months when things have changed a little bit.
Absolutely. It's kind of like you want to put the red flag on La Mesa because it's not following the trends that the rest of the county is doing, and that says a lot about, like you said, the stability and what's drawing people there and the growth of the community and how fairly priced things are. That's like check, 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 right?
Yeah, it's still a good value, and that's where it's hard to identify areas anywhere in San Diego where it's actually a good value now.
No
You look at the price, you're like, wow, that is just, interest rates are up, but the prices are still incredibly high. And
I still have to make renovations or changes to it too. Really interesting. So another thing I know we want to chat about is ways to obtain an investment property. So you have some creative thoughts on that, right?
Yeah, so I've been investing in real estate myself, since I got into the business, and I've also helped a number of clients do this. And when I first started doing this was 2008, 9, 10. Prices were, we were at the absolute bottom. Prices were so low you could go out and buy an investment property that made sense. And most of what I've done for my clients is smaller stuff, like 2 to 4 unit properties, or in their own category where you can get the same type of loan as you can for a single family house. So it makes buying an investment property very attainable for most people.
Sure.
If you work a regular job, you can usually afford it, and it's going to make you a little bit of money every month, and it's a good way to build for retirement or whatever it's going to be. With the run-up in prices over the last 5 years, we'll call it, those returns have just shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. So, realistically, you'd be very hard-pressed to go find an investment property nowadays that makes any sort of financial sense.
Unless you've just got money to shell out and you're playing it long term and it doesn't matter in the short term,
unless you're willing to put 50% down and make a 3% return on your money. And it doesn't work for most people. So what I've encouraged some of my clients to do, I had this client that was looking for single family houses. And everything we're seeing is $400,000 to $500,000, and it rents for, call it $2,000 a month. And they had a big property, and I said, well, why don't you just build something on your property? And this was really before the regulations on granny flats and the easing and the permit process came to be.
So now it's easier than ever, right?
So I thought, well, we looked at the numbers. You can go buy a house for $400,000, or you can do an investment property on your own property that you already own for less than half of that, and the rent's the same, and you're really, the way this one was situated, you'd really never know that anyone else was there. They're not going to be bothering you. So I thought, there's got to be more scenarios like this where this really makes sense for somebody.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't make any money on that situation, but I think there's opportunities there.
Right.
And the city of San Diego recently made it much easier to put a granny flat or accessory dwelling unit, as they call it, an ADU on your property. The permit fees are about a third of what they used to be. And a lot of the parking requirements and everything else that used to be extremely strict aren't in place anymore.
Okay.
So what that would allow somebody to do is, hey, I got this single family house that's in a kind of densely populated area. I would never think that I could actually add a second unit on it.
Right.
But in most cases you can. As long as you just meet some minimum requirements, you can do that. So instead of going out and spending $500,000 on an investment property, you can find something like that and either add something on your own house, or I've seen a number of my clients buy a single family house and then you add the second dwelling, and for
Gotcha.
a fraction of what you would buy a 2-unit property for, you've got 2 units.
That's amazing.
And so where you'd normally see a 3 to 4% return, you can create a 7 to 8% return.
Wow.
And so you're really doubling what you can effectively make if you're willing to go through a little bit more of a process. But I think the take home to me is, well, for the average guy that's got a house that wants to have some investment real estate, look at putting something on your own property. For someone with an investment mindset and who has some money to spend, look for properties that have a single family house where there's the opportunity to add the second granny flat ADU on it, and you can actually create a portfolio without having to go to the middle of nowhere where you can actually get a decent return, because a lot of people don't want to do that either.
Right. I mean, I have friends buying back in Ohio for investments because it's so cheap out there and they can't do that here, you know? And if they have someone to run it back there, that's great. But really opening up a lot of opportunities for people here in San Diego. So that's amazing. As always, that's John Lieber. He's a realtor with New Leaf Realty in La Mesa. That's also his brokerage, and you can find him at johnlieber.com. But what an amazing value and service that you're providing for your clients. You know, like you said, it may not always make you money. You're not getting commission on them building an accessory dwelling unit on their home, but you're doing right by your clients. You're helping them make the best decision for their financial future. And if it helps you, it does, great. And if not, you're doing the right thing. I think that's really important.
Yeah,
so thank you so much for that, John. I'm just going to come back to you, Megan. We're about to wrap up here. So what is your takeaway from today? What would you like people to remember about yourself and Mission Strength?
Just that the simple message that you are enough. And no matter what you're going through, no matter what season you're in, there's ways to learn how to really believe that you are enough. And, my passion and my purpose is to share my story, the struggles, the trauma, to be completely authentic, to help inspire others to realize that if you do the work, you can truly create the life you've always dreamed of.
Absolutely. And that's Megan Fenyo. She's licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Mission Strength. She's also a best-selling author of You Are Enough, and you can find her at missionstrengthsd.com. Larry Wagner, founder of Wagner School of Music. What would you like people to take away from today?
That it is possible for you to give your child a quality music education in a social environment, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, so it's not going to, be that big of a sacrifice for you financially, and it's going to be reasonably integrated into your child's busy life, and busier as they get older, that they'll be able to carry music with them. And you will be giving them the gift of music, which is probably, I have not met an adult that didn't wish they could make music. I haven't met one of those. I haven't met an adult that quit music that wishes they didn't, wishes they would have stuck with it. And so giving them the gift of music throughout their childhood, helping them to grow up making music is a great gift. I won't say it's the best gift in the world, because there are so many things that parents do that are wonderful for their kids, and I don't want to take away any of that, but I would say you'll be giving them one of the greatest gifts.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beautifully said, Larry. Again, Larry Wagner, founder of Wagner School of Music, and you can find them at wagnersmusic.com. Again, John Lieber, realtor with New Leaf Realty, johnlieber.com as well. And this has been Real Talk La Mesa, coming to you live from Smarter San Diego studios. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in. We'll be right back here next month, same time, same place. And as always, go love everyone. We'll catch you next time.